And welcome, folks, to the Healthcare Business Network. This is Ron Nyman. I'm here for our inaugural show, and I want to thank everybody who's taken the opportunity to listen to us. If you are a doctor, a healthcare administrator, you work at a hospital, this is the place to come to hear some fantastic guests discussing the business of healthcare. In the ensuing weeks that are going to be coming up, we're going to have some of the leading healthcare attorneys, some of the leaders in the area of electronic health records. We will have some experts in the area of compliance and privacy. So anything that goes on in the business of healthcare, the Healthcare Business Network is going to be your place to come to. So I want to, again, welcome everybody here. My name, again, is Ron Nyman, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy week. For our first guest, our inaugural guest, is a very special guest. His name is Barry Cepelewicz. Barry is a partner at the law firm of Meiselman, Denlea, Packman, Carton Eberz. They're located in White Plains, New York. Barry is a partner there and a chair of their healthcare law group. Barry represents physicians, physician groups, and other healthcare-related clients in transactional, regulatory, and litigation matters. Among other things, Barry has preserved the licenses of physicians accused of insurance fraud and other forms of misconduct, and he's also reinstated physician privileges and has saved physicians millions of dollars through aggressive advocacy. He's also been involved in a number of profitable joint ventures between physician groups and other entities, and together with his fellow attorneys at Meiselman Denlea, he has prosecuted class action lawsuits against insurance companies which have resulted in significant policy changes, which has made the healthcare world a whole lot better for hospitals and physicians. As a physician and attorney, Barry's expertise in healthcare extends beyond the law. In many cases, Barry is hired by physician groups and physicians in order to be an integral part of their management team. Barry is highly unusual as an attorney because not only is he an attorney, he is also an MD. He's a graduate of the Mount Sinai School of Medicine and the New York University School of Law. Barry serves on the boards and committees at various healthcare institutions, and he's also an editorial consultant for medical economics and is an associate editor of several publications. He's lectured and has been published widely on many healthcare-related issues. So I want to take the opportunity. Barry, welcome on as our first guest.
Ron, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be on the inaugural show of the Healthcare Business Network.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here today, Barry, and we're going to be discussing a very important topic, something that I know has caused a tremendous amount of concern for hospitals, for physicians, practice managers, administrators, and that is the whole issue of audits. And I know, as you're going to be letting our audience know out there, the whole issue of audits is becoming even more dire and concerning to folks in the healthcare industry because of recovery audit contractors, which I know you're going to be speaking about in a little bit. But I guess the way I wanted to start off, Barry, was define really what a third-party payer audit is, because I know there's such things as reviews that are done by insurance carriers, but what makes an audit stand apart from everything else?
Well, typically a review is a random event that happens when a third-party payer just wants to look at your claims and see exactly how you're billing your claims. But an audit is a bit different. An audit typically results when an insurance company sends you a letter saying that they want to have medical records provided to them, and they usually will give you a list of records. They may ask for 20, 30, 50 medical records of various patients. Usually, if you talk to the insurance companies, the reasons why they target these doctors is because they are perceived as outliers, either because they're billing lots of 5s or 4s, or because they're doing a lot of procedures or a lot of consultations. So they're on the radar screen for these insurance companies.
Now, would you say, is there, in the area of audits, of course, you can be audited by the state via Medicaid or the federal government, Medicare. Do you see a difference between government and private payer audits?
Well, I think, again, this is obviously a broad statement, and there could be exceptions on both sides, but usually the audits, at least that I have found in my experience, when you're dealing in the private sector, they typically take less time. They come back to you with the results quicker, and they're easier to negotiate. When you're dealing with Medicare, they take a much longer time from the time you are first notified of the audit until you finally get a result. The result meaning on either end that you owe the payer money because they claim that they overpaid you, and it's very, very difficult to reach a settlement with Medicare. So it's if I had to choose which one would be the easier audit to deal with, it's clearly the third-party payers in the private sector.
I'm sure this is a lot of people would feel this is probably a self-explanatory question, but what makes the audit so important for the provider or the hospital?
Well, first of all, you're talking about a lot of time. You're collecting records. You're making copies. And this takes a lot of time out of the physician's busy day, so there's a lot of administrative work here that either the physician has to do or an office manager has to do or somebody has to do in their office. And, of course, at the end of the day, the insurance company typically comes back and says that you owe us a sum of money. Sometimes it could be a few $1,000s, but many times it could be in the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we even have situations where it's in excess of $1 million. And so depending on what number you're looking at, this could be a number that could theoretically bankrupt the practice. So it's a it's a serious issue. It's one that should be taken seriously from the moment you get the letter and all the way through the process.
And if you were to look at the type of people who are conducting these audits, is there a paradigm or a model? Is there a typical education and background you see from people who conduct these audits?
Well, typically the people who work in the SIU, which is the Special Investigations Unit, they're the ones who actually are the ones who investigate. They don't tell you really what their education is, but in dealing with many of these insurance companies over the years, many of them have told me that they were former office managers of medical practices, so they have an understanding of how medical practices work, how they bill. Some of them are actually billing and coding specialists, so they have even a higher degree of knowledge in the area of billing and coding. Some of the individuals are former law enforcement. Many of these individuals in the SIU work with consultants. Some of them are physicians or nurse consultants, so those consultants bring the medicine into the investigation. So it's probably at least one, if not two or three people working on the matter. If the matter is a significant matter where there's a lot more money involved, then there's probably more than just the one person working on the file.
And what should the doctor do or not do once they're notified of an audit? First thing that right out of the box for them.
Well, I think the first thing they should do is certainly call their attorney just to find out exactly what this letter is. When they get a letter saying that it's a routine audit, they would like to have copies of these various medical records. In my opinion, it's not a routine audit, and they should already be on a heightened alert, so they should contact me. And what I typically tell the doctors is sometimes doctors will do silly things when they get a letter like this. For example, they'll look over the records and they'll see that they may not have written certain things that they wish they would have written at the time they saw the patient, so they may add certain information. And you have to advise the physician that that's not acceptable because that's altering the records. They can't do that. They have to provide the records as is, the way they have it in their files. Some doctors like to don't forget, a lot of times when they get these requests for the records, you don't know exactly why the insurance company is doing the audit. So sometimes physicians think they know why the insurance companies are doing the audit, and so they suddenly write a whole long explanation as to why they think they're being audited and what the records say and what they've done. And I always tell them not to provide any sort of explanation, either orally or in writing, because you don't know what the issues are yet. You'll know what the issues are when they come back to you after they do their review and they come back to you with a demand. Sometimes the doctors say, my handwriting is very sloppy, I'd like to provide a transcript. And that's okay as long as it's a word-for-word transcript and it's not accompanied by an explanation. And then lastly, they ask whether they should communicate directly with the payer. And that obviously I take on a case-by-case basis. It depends really on the physician, but I try to limit the amount of communications between the doctor and the payer.
Right, and it certainly makes sense. Well, listen, Barry, we're going to take a quick break here. We have a commercial from our friends over at MediStar, and we'll be back in a moment to continue this.